Welcome. Call this meeting to order. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Schulten, Chair of the Long Point Region Conservation Authority. It's my pleasure on behalf of Lprca's directors and staff to welcome you. Board members, staff, guests, and members of the public are advised that this meeting is being audio recorded and live streamed through the Lprca YouTube channel. Is there any conflict of interest from anyone? Seeing none, I'll carry on. Are there any additional agenda items? Robert, did you have your hand up?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Then we will go to the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on February the 2nd, 2022. And I have a motion that the minutes of the Lprca Board of Directors meeting held February 23.
It's 23. Sorry.
Pardon? 23?
Yep.
23 be adopted as circulated. I need a mover and a seconder. We are lost. Robert and Peter. Are there any corrections or omissions noted that need to be addressed? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. There's no business arising from the previous minutes. And so then I'll move right down to item number 6 on the agenda, which is the chair's remarks. And first of all, I would like to thank our former chair, Mike Columbus, who faithfully led the board and the senior staff of the Lprca for the last 3 years as chair of our board. And Mike was great to work with. I was his vice chair for the last 3 years. And on behalf of the board and staff of Lprca, thank you very much for your dedication and your work done for the board.
Thank you for those kind words, John. Appreciate it.
Secondly, second year of COVID-19 issues and restrictions, a challenge for the board, administration, and staff. However, everyone rose to the challenge. And in spite of COVID-19, the Lprca had a good year, as you will hear later on. The park upgrades and enhancements continue. We were able to add more sites, both for daily and seasonal use, and plan to continue on this path. The Lee Brown Marsh Waterfall Management Team was able to have a good hunting season in 2021 in spite of cross-border restrictions. The manager was able to entice more Canadian hunters to replace the US hunters who could not cross the border, and therefore our revenues were relatively the same as the pre-COVID years. The Bacchus Museum Committee works with staff to develop recommendations and policies for review and approval by the Lprca board, and to monitor adherence to these policies. I'd like to thank the Bacchus Museum Committee members for their contributions this past year. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. The customer service plan was updated. This plan was formulated by our watershed service team, and to improve customer service, to reduce the application turnaround time, and be customer friendly and helpful. And it was a very interesting document that was presented by that team, which is what we're all about. Working together with surrounding CAs regarding the Lake Erie Source Protection Region Committee, namely Lprca, Grand River, Cattle Creek, Catfish Conservation Authorities, work together regarding water quality, government grants, etc. I've attended my first meeting. of that committee, and it was very interesting to hear what they do jointly. The budget process and presentation for 2022, we were able to present a reasonable budget that was acceptable and workable for our municipal partners who we like to work with very closely. What will 2022 bring? Hopefully a lifting of restrictions and a general more open environment because of the new Conservation Act. There's more accountability, transparency, and very detailed reporting is going to be required. And therefore, a lot of staff time and board decisions will have to be made in 2022. Therefore, as board, administration, and staff, look for a very challenging year, and it will require everyone's efforts and dedication. May God best bless our land, citizens, municipal, provincial, and federal government, and the Lprca. So now I would like to call upon David Beers, our Audit and Finance Committee Chair, to present the 2021 audit reports. David.
Thank you, Chair. I have a script here, so forgive me if I look down periodically. I'm Dave Barris. I'm the Chair of the Audit and the Finance Committee for Lprca. The Audit and Finance Committee met on February 18th, 2022. And at the committee meeting, Ms. Ashley, forgive me if I mispronounce, is the E long Didoni? Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah. Didoni, yeah. Thank you very much. I should have checked earlier. Audit partner of MNP presented a highlight of the audit plan and reviewed the 2021 financial statements. MNP has issued a clean audit option of the authority's 2021 financial statements. MNP found that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the authority as at December 31st, 2021. The Audit and Finance Committee draft minutes for the meeting held February 18th are included in your agenda package today. Ms. Ashley, audit partner of MNP, has joined us today on the screen. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you, Dave.
Lprca financial statements are audited annually. MNP of London has conducted the audit of Lprca's financial statements. And once again, I'm glad to report that management felt the audit went well. I'd like to thank MNP for their services and also extend our appreciation to Judy Maxwell and all of the staff of the authority for all of the hard work throughout the year, ensuring the authority remained in a positive financial position. Thank you. The authority ended the 2021 fiscal year in a favorable position with an operating surplus of $965,000 compared to the budgeted $590,835. This positive variance is primarily due to the increased demand in camping at our 5 parks and the rising price of lumber. The authority's reserve grew by $717,933 to $9.867 million in 2021. In Schedule 3 and 4 of the financial statements, you can see all of the externally and internally restricted reserves. The authority continues to invest in operations, and in 2021, we acquired $503,878 in tangible capital assets, Schedule 2 of the financial statements. 2021 was another successful year for the authority, and I look forward to working with the board of directors and supporting staff in the great work they perform in the coming year. I'm going to ask, are there any questions of staff or of Ashley? Seeing none, I have some business arising from these minutes. I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder that the Lprca minutes of the Lprca Audit and Finance Committee meeting held February 18, 2022 be adopted. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Well, we'll say moved by Tom, seconded by Seconder, Valerie, thank you very much. Is there any discussion? We'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that motion is carried. Thank you. Second motion reads that the LPRCA Board of Directors approve the financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2021, as audited by MNP LLP Chartered Professional Accountants. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, can I ask for a mover and a seconder? And we'll say Stuart Patterson and Ian Rabbits to second. Thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion again is carried. And the third and final motion that that the LPRCA Board of Directors receive the LPRCA 2021 audit findings report from MNP LLP Chartered Professional Accountants as information. Mover and a seconder. And that would be Peter and Valerie. Thank you very much. And we'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And I guess there is a final one, the last motion. And it reads that the LPRCA Board of Directors approves the appointment of MNP LLP Chartered Accountants for LPRCA's auditors for the 2022 fiscal period. Any discussion on that? Mike, are you moving?
Mover. Yep.
Mover. Moved by Mike, seconded by Tom. Thank you very much. Any discussion on that? Then we'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you very much, board. And now I'll turn the meeting back to the chair.
Thank you, Dave. The following motions are required to be approved each year. I have a motion that notice that the LPRCA Board of Directors approves the chair, vice chair, general manager, and manager of corporate services as designated signing officers for the authority in the business authority business for the year 2022.
I'd like to make that now. I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, a seconder. Ian. Is there any discussion regarding that motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. So the second motion I have is that the LPRCA Board of Directors authorize the chair or vice chair and the general manager or manager of corporate services to borrow funds as required for the day-to-day operations of the authority. For this, I need a mover and a second.
I'll move it.
Val and Stu. Is there any discussion regarding this motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's passed. Then I have one more motion, and that is that the LPRCA Board of Directors designates the authority chair as the authority's representative to Conservation Ontario, with the vice chair designated as alternate, and further that the general manager be directed to participate on appropriate committees of the Conservation Authority and be authorized to vote in the absence of the designated representatives. I need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Tom. Seconder, Dave. Is there any discussion regarding that motion? Then I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So that brings us to the 2021 annual report by Judy Maxwell.
Thank you.
General Manager.
Thank you, John. So in the package, everyone received from Dana the print copy, but we actually have the hard copy in hand. So the next time you're in the office here, we'll be able to give you a hard copy for that. So I just want to say that it's my pleasure today to present the 2021 annual report on behalf of all the staff of LPRCA. 2021 was not without challenges. However, with the collective efforts of our staff, board members, and partners, we delivered on programs and services that we all can be proud of. The pandemic has changed how we interact, but not our dedication to delivering our essential program and services for the watershed. The planning and regulation staff supported the economy while protecting the public from natural hazards, issuing 272 permits for development and infrastructure projects. 11 flood messages were issued through the authority's flood forecast and warning services. Safety protocols continued, and they were enforced to ensure seasonal campgrounds and our facilities could operate safely and for the season. In the fall of 2021, the third phase of the campground upgrade at Waterford North, CA, was completed, and 52 additional seasonal sites were added to the inventory for camping. Upgrades to 7 campsites at Deer Creek, CA, were also completed. In November, the authority lost a Lee Brown Marsh committee member, Barry Smith. Barry was an active committee member for 10 years, and he was passionate about conservation in the marsh. Barry will be missed greatly. LPRCA remains committed to protecting lives and property, preserving and restoring the natural heritage in the watershed. As the demand for outdoor activities increases, we provide residents an option to use our passive CAs, forest tracks, or the campgrounds. Our success and resilience is made possible by the support from the board members and the amazing staff dedication. I, on behalf of all staff, would like to thank the municipal partners, along with all our stakeholders and customers in supporting us in 2021. So Zach has put together again for this year a short 3-minute video. So I'm going to ask Zach to just play the video now, and it's called 2021, A Year in Review. Thanks, everybody.
Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment after that video. It's a very, very nicely done. And as past chair, I just wanted to say how proud I am of all the efforts of our staff and our board of directors for their contribution. And look what we've achieved here. The video captures it all. And again, it's very, very nice to have that displayed so that our residents in the watershed can appreciate what we've done as an LPRCA board and staff. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mike. And thank you, Judy, for your annual report for 2021. And I have a motion here that, before I say that, I think we have a very talented IT person on staff who can basically develop anything, as you just seen. I have a motion here that the LPRCA Board of Directors receives the 2021 annual report as information. Can I have a mover and a second? Peter and Dave. Is there any discussion regarding Judy's annual report? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So next we have the Stewardship Award recognition to Mr. Paul DeCluet. And we're going to take a moment to celebrate excellence in conservation by acknowledging this year's Stewardship Award recipient. Conserving our environmental resources is a collaborative endeavor. Conservation authorities are not alone in the effort to protect the environmental well-being of our watershed. Much of the planting and restoration work we do is only possible thanks to our municipal, business, and private partners and many other people and organizations contributing to conservation efforts. Each year, LPRCA presents a person or group who are making significant contributions to conservation in the Long Point Region watershed with the Long Point Region Conservation Stewardship Award. This year's recipient is Mr. Paul DeCluet, who was nominated by Kristen Bernard of the Nature Conservancy of Canada. On behalf of LPRCA, I'm proud to present the Conservation Stewardship Award to Paul. Paul began purchasing woodlots when he realized that well-managed forests could provide as much income per acre as some agriculture crops. As it turned out, Paul developed a knack for growing trees and helping forests thrive. His love for trees, tulip trees in particular, is well known as he regularly gives trees he grows to his friends and the community. An active member of the local Lions Club, Paul has participated in tree planting and restoration projects within the watershed for decades. He has lent his expertise and passion to many forest and conservation-related organizations over the years, including to us here at the Long Point Region Conservation Authority. Between his own property and community projects, well over 100,000 trees have been planted in the area thanks to his efforts. In 1987, Paul joined the LPRCA as a member of the board of directors, serving until 1997. During that time, he sat on many LPRCA committees and also served as board chair from 1993 to 1996. We thank Paul for his continued commitment to the conservation of natural resources in the Long Point Region watershed. Mr. DeCluet is unable to be with us today for the presentation. We will be presenting him this award at the next in-person board meeting. Next, I will call on Judy to present the service awards.
Thank you, John.
Robert's got a question. Looks like Robert has a question.
Robert has a question.
Yes.
Can't see it.
here.
I'll pick it up.
So Robert has his hand up.
Robert, I'm sorry, I couldn't see you, so I didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And just before Judy goes on to the service recognitions, I just wanted to make comment on Mr. DeClute's contribution, and it's a recognition, an award well deserved. Many years ago now, actually it would be probably in between 1993 and 1996 when Paul was chairman. That was the first contact I had with him. I had arranged for tree planting to be done through Long Point Conservation Authority. And as chairman, Paul actually came out and drove the tractor that planted the trees on my farm and about a 5-acre plantation. So I think Paul set a very high standard, not only for conservation, but for chairman of the board to get their work clothes on and get out and plant some trees once in a while. So I just pass it on to the chairman. If he's looking for something to do, maybe he can come out and drive a tractor somewhere and help plant the trees, the 53,000 trees that the authority plants every year. So when I see you out there, John, I'll congratulate you just like I congratulated Paul DeClute for taking a hands-on approach to the chairmanship and for conservation in the region.
Thank you for your comments, Robert. And for some reason, I knew that at the tail end of your discussion today, that what you just advised would follow. Thanks. Okay.
Stewart.
Oh, sorry, Stewart.
Thanks, John. I just want to add to Robert's comments regarding Paul. A couple of the directors know, Aim would know, and Dave would know, being lines in the area. But for other folks that aren't aware, probably about, I don't know, 7 years ago, the Lions International president, his goal was to get trees planted throughout the world. And Paul kind of took that mission on in our district, which is called A2, which basically goes from Niagara Falls to Tillsonburg, Caledonia to Long Point. So it's a pretty big area, over about 40 clubs. Paul had representatives from every one of those clubs in our area planting trees. So, I mean, his passion was, so obvious. So, unbelievable effect what he's had in this area from like throughout our multiple districts. So many, many thanks to Paul. Job well done and award well deserved.
Thank you, Stuart. I can echo that the recipient of the Stewardship Award is well placed with Paul DeClute. So we have one item for new business, which is a dump truck tender, and I'm going to ask Judy to speak to that.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we just need to go back to the service awards.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. So I'm excited to recognize 7 employees that have attained service milestones in 2021 with the authority. So for 5 years, we have 3 employees achieving this milestone. First, Leanne Moffey. Leanne started as a planning technician in 2016, then was promoted to planning supervisor in 2020. In 2021, Leanne took on the interim role of manager of watershed services. We appreciate her dedication and enthusiasm in accepting new challenges. Leanne is currently on maternity leave, and we look forward to her return. Next, the carpenter, Jeff Callio. Jeff started at the workshop in 2016, and his title doesn't reflect all the maintenance work that is performed on all the equipment and vehicles. Jeff takes great pride in his work, and we are very fortunate to have Jeff working with us, as his carpentry and mechanic skills keep our facilities, equipment, and vehicles in sound condition. And next, Don Chapman, who has reached the 5-year milestone also. Don started at Norfolk CA in a support role and has returned each season. Don's mechanical skills are very good, and he keeps things in great operating order at the Norfolk CA. We are very lucky to have Don on our team at the Norfolk Conservation Area. The next level is 10-year. We have 1 employee being recognized. and that is Frank Scram, the workshop supervisor. Frank started working at Lprca full-time in March of 2012 after completing a short-term contract in the forestry department. In his role, Frank oversees the workshop team, which is the seasonal maintenance staff and the carpenter. Frank is a very dedicated employee, and his contributions are greatly appreciated in managing the workshop and supporting the operations at Lprca. Next, we have the 20 year, and we have one employee being recognized. That's Paul Gagnon. Prior to him being hired as a lands and water supervisor in 2001, Paul filled many contract roles with Lprca beginning in 1994. Paul oversees the activities in the Healthy Watershed Services area and the private forestry department. Paul also is part of the flood forecast and warning team. Paul is known in the watershed for the tree planting programs, which has put in over 1.8 million trees in the ground since 2002. Paul has great knowledge of the watershed, and he has a passion to improve the health of the watershed, and this is demonstrated in his day-to-day work. Next, we have a 30-year employee being recognized, and that is Bonnie Bravner, resource technician. Bonnie was hired in September of 1991 and has seen many changes over the years, including numerous regulatory changes. Bonnie is a valuable resource and has filled various roles over the 30 years at the authority. Bonnie is a dedicated and dependable staff member with knowledge and insight for the watershed that is invaluable. Bonnie is a great asset to the organization. Last, we have one employee achieving the 35-year mark, and that is Jenny Van Lowe, accounting clerk, our longest serving employee at 35 years. Jenny began her career with Lprca in June of 1986 as a typist receptionist. And in 1996, Jenny took on her current role in payroll and accounting. From typewriters to computers, from manual ledgers to accounting programs, Jenny has experienced much change. Jenny's a reliable, dedicated employee that you can count on to get the job completed. Jenny, thank you for the commitment you show to the authority every day. So on behalf of the board of directors, I would like to congratulate all staff that have achieved a service milestone. Each of you helped form the backbone of the authority, and it is definitely a better place with employees like you. So we'll be presenting in-person certificates at a later date to the employees.
Thank you, Judy. Yes, and I echo that on behalf of the board. Congratulations to all these long service staff members that are so dedicated, as we've just heard. So now I can move to new business, right?
Yeah.
All right, we have the dump truck tender, and I'm going to turn that over for Judy to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this report was sent out yesterday, but we have received some new information this morning. So that is regarding the price fluctuation. We received some clarity around that. So at the time, yesterday, when this was sent out, we understood that the price would be confirmed at the price of, or at the time of ordering. And we learned today that the price is not firm until there is a bill date, which is scheduled for sometime in June of 2023. So with that new information, I am not, I'm asking the board to consider not approving the recommendation that's in front of you in the report. And the chair does have a new motion for consideration. We did feel that this was a very good price, but with the information and not having been able to achieve a firm price, I just I don't want to be boxed in and subject to a price increase that we really may not be able to afford or don't want to afford. So that's sort of where this has landed. So I'll just turn it maybe back over to the chair.
Are there any questions for Judy regarding this dump truck tender? Basically, they won't hold the price, and we have up to 120 days prior to build to cancel the order. But then we've lost all that time because they're talking about 2023. So it's not really as good a deal as what we see. And we would like to just further tender out if possible, which I think can happen. Are there any questions for Judy? Hearing none, then I will call the motion, read the motion, that the Lprca Board of Directors does not accept staff's recommendation, and that the board directs the GM to seek additional quotes, and that the board authorize the general manager to purchase a dump truck within the approved budget. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Val and Peter. Is there any discussion regarding this motion? Yes, Stu.
Thanks, John. Through you, I'm just wondering if we should give staff a bit of flexibility, like a bit of a buffer room, because we just went through our capitals yesterday, and I mean, a lot of these trucks, transport, that type of thing are hard to get. You know, there's no corporate discounts anymore. Prices seem to be going up. So I'm just afraid that if we re-tender, they come back and it's going to be a higher price. I'm just wondering if we should give them some room to be flexible.
I believe that go ahead, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. Through the chair, so to Stu, we did tender, we did use the 2 sites. We didn't receive a bid. So I asked Frank Scram, the workshop supervisor, to obtain quotes. We only received this 1 quote. We've been promised others, but none have come through, and with the timing of the board meeting. So I wanted to bring this forward, but with the new information, I think the motion is giving me that flexibility to continue to get bids and be able to purchase without worrying about the timing for the next board meeting. So that's really what the motion would be doing. I would still be reviewing the options with the chair and vice chair, and then I could bring a report back to the next board meeting once we find another solution. But you're right, Stu, the supply is very limited, if any, to purchase off the lot.
Go ahead, Stu.
I'm fine with that, Judy. I just didn't want to handcuff you. So if you think it's doable, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Judy regarding the dump truck tender? Seeing none, hearing none, I have a mover and a seconder. Those that are in favor. Those opposed? Robert. So there's 1 opposed.
No, he was putting his hand down.
Pardon?
He was just putting his hand down.
Thank you. So anyway, thank you, Judy, for that report. And that concludes the 2022 Lprca Annual General Meeting. Oh, Robert.
Mr. Chairman, just clarification, I did vote in favor of the resolution that you had just called, and I was just, my computer was in delay mode. But just prior to adjourning, if I could, just prior to adjourning, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to recognize, it's a sad note, but the passing of a former board member, Sam Lamb from the town of Telsonburg, served on the board back when I first went on the board. We were meeting at the office on Radical Road. I know Dave Barris would know Sam a lot better than than I do, but when Sam was on the board, he was like a statesman. He was, everybody listened to Sam, and he was an excellent role model for the younger people that were on the board, like myself at the time. So I just wanted to offer my personal condolences to the Lamb family through the Long Point Conservation Board, and maybe Dave would have something more to say about Sam, but just I know if Sam, I believe he was 95 when he passed, and he will be well remembered, at least from myself as a valuable member of the Long Point Region Conservation Authority family.
Thank you, Robert. Dave, did you want to say something?
I'll just say a couple of things about Sam. I knew him as a friend, a colleague. I served with him on council. He was there prior to myself. I believe he served a total of 12 years on council. He was certainly influential in the community. His two areas of expertise were sports, both hockey and baseball. He had a diamond named after him, not at his request, but just his peers had that done for him. And Sam was an expert on trucks. If you ever wanted, and I think Robert will agree, if you ever, something ever came up, Sam seemed to know the answers on specifications on trucks and how to buy them. So he's a very good man, very dedicated to the community. His slogan was Sam, the people's man. And he certainly did hold that up. He was reelected many, many times, well respected in trying times, both for the Conservation Authority and for the town of Tillsonburg. He was always there making the right votes and the right moves in leadership. And we thank Sam for his service. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for your participation today to the board.